Christmas is supposed to feel warm, joyful, and full of connection. But if this year felt heavy, if you watched others celebrate while you quietly battled loneliness inside, if you smiled in front of people but questioned your purpose when the lights went off, then this message is exactly for you. Because loneliness doesn't always mean abandonment. Sometimes loneliness is the loudest stage of spiritual transformation. What if the emptiness you felt wasn't a sign that God left you, but a sign that He's closer than ever? What if the separation, the silence, the distance, the quiet nights, and the uncomfortable emotions were actually the construction zone of your future strength? Today we are breaking down 9 signs that your Christmas loneliness was not an accident. It was evidence that God is preparing, repositioning, and rebuilding you. So take a deep breath. Don't run from the loneliness. Let's understand what God is really doing through it. Sign 1. God is removing noise so you can hear Him clearly. If this Christmas felt strangely quiet, almost like the world around you slowed down, that's not random. One of the biggest signs God is working in your life is when He begins to pull you away from unnecessary noise. This noise can be people, distractions, environments, or old habits that used to keep your mind busy. Loneliness hurts, but silence creates clarity. And God often speaks the clearest during your quietest seasons. You might have noticed moments where your thoughts felt louder, your emotions felt sharper, and your inner world became more noticeable. That's because God was positioning you to finally hear what you've been too distracted to notice. Many people misunderstand this moment. They think, why am I being isolated? Why do I feel disconnected from everyone? But spiritually, this is God's way of aligning your attention. He doesn't isolate you to break you, He separates you to focus you. If you felt quieter inside, if you found yourself reflecting more, if you sensed deeper awareness about your life, your relationships, or your direction, this wasn't loneliness. This was tuning. God was gently adjusting the frequency of your heart so you can hear Him without interference. This sign means you are entering a season where you will receive clarity, direction, and inner strength. If this message spoke to your heart, hit subscribe. Your healing and your growth matter here. Sign 2. God is closing doors that should not follow you into the new year. Maybe this Christmas highlighted the people who didn't show up, the relationships that faded, or the connections that suddenly felt distant. As painful as it is, closed doors are powerful messages. God sometimes uses emotional distance to reveal spiritual truth. If someone didn't reach out, didn't check on you, or didn't value your presence, God allowed it for a reason. Not because something is wrong with you, but because the next chapter of your life requires a new environment. Closed doors aren't rejection. They're protection. And sometimes God has to let you feel the sting of absence so you stop returning to places that no longer feed your growth. Christmas has a way of exposing who genuinely values you and who only keeps you around for convenience. So if your circle felt smaller this year, if you realized you were giving more than you were receiving, if you woke up feeling like certain people simply don't fit your spirit anymore, this was God's way of guiding you. You're being moved away from old emotional patterns and toward people who match your destiny, not your comfort. Sign 3. God is strengthening your emotional independence. One of the hardest lessons God teaches is this: you must learn to stand before you learn to walk with others. If Christmas felt lonely, it may be because God is building a stronger version of you. One who is not dependent on validation, company, or constant reassurance. When you learn to sit with yourself, you unlock emotional maturity. You learn to recognize your needs, your triggers, your thoughts, and your direction. This is why people say, loneliness teaches you what relationships distract you from. If you spent this Christmas feeling like you had only yourself, it means God is shaping inner resilience. You weren't created to collapse when someone leaves or crumble when attention fades. You are being trained to carry purpose, identity, and conviction within yourself, not in external conditions. Maybe you noticed yourself processing emotions differently. Maybe you handled disappointment with more awareness than before. Maybe you felt pain, but you didn't break the way you did in past years. That's growth. That's God strengthening your foundation. That's emotional independence being built from the inside out. And once you master this, once you become whole within yourself, God begins to send the right people who align with the strength you've gained. Sign 4. God is preparing you for a new assignment. Sometimes the reason you felt disconnected from everyone this Christmas is simple. The old season has ended and God is preparing you for a new assignment. When God prepares you for something bigger, your interests change, your mindset shifts, and your spirit becomes restless. You may have felt like certain conversations no longer interest you. You may have felt distant from environments that were once normal. You may have felt like your spirit was transitioning, even if your life didn't look different yet. That's spiritual repositioning. Loneliness is often the starting point of purpose. Before God elevates you, He separates you. Before He expands your influence, He purifies your direction. Before He uses you, He simplifies your environment. If you felt an inner shift this holiday season, something quietly telling you that next year won't look like last year, this is your confirmation. God is preparing your heart for something new, something purposeful, something that requires a changed version of you. You're not being left behind. You're being moved forward. Don't walk this journey alone. Subscribe and let's grow spiritually, emotionally, and strongly together. Sign 5. God is healing hidden wounds. Loneliness often exposes emotional wounds we didn't know were still there. Christmas can trigger memories, old traumas, painful losses, past relationships, disappointments, family issues, or feelings of unworthiness. If you found yourself crying unexpectedly, feeling sensitive, or remembering things you thought you had forgotten, this is not weakness. This is healing. Healing is uncomfortable because it forces you to face the emotions you've buried. But you cannot grow past the pain you refuse to acknowledge. God brings these emotions to the surface not to hurt you, but to release you from them. You might have felt a wave of sadness. You might have felt anger or frustration. You might have felt a longing for connection or understanding. These emotions are not setbacks. They're signals that your heart is opening up in ways it hasn't before. God is removing emotional blockages one layer at a time. If Christmas felt heavy, it means your heart is becoming lighter. If you felt emotional, it means your healing has started. If you felt old wounds resurfacing, it means they're finally ready to be closed. Healing doesn't begin when you feel strong. Healing begins when you feel honest. And this season forced you into honesty with yourself. Sign 6. God is teaching you discernment about people. One of the most powerful gifts God gives is discernment, the ability to see people clearly. This Christmas may have revealed who truly cares about you and who only acts like they do. You might have noticed certain people never checked on you. Some conversations felt one-sided. Some relationships felt emotionally draining. Some individuals disappeared the moment you needed them. This revelation isn't meant to make you bitter, it's meant to make you wiser. Loneliness gave you the space to observe people without emotional fog. You saw intentions, patterns, and behaviors more clearly than ever. Discernment helps you protect your peace. Discernment helps you choose better relationships. Discernment is the foundation of future blessings. If God is cleaning your circle, it means He's preparing to bless you. And not everyone around you has the maturity, honesty, or loyalty to handle that blessing. This sign is simple: God is sharpening your judgment. He's training you to recognize who deserves a place in your life, and who doesn't. Sign 7. God is rebuilding your identity. Loneliness forces one powerful question: who am I when no one is around? If Christmas made you think about your worth, your value, your identity, or your direction, it means God is upgrading your self-understanding. Many people build their identity on approval, relationships, or reputation. But God builds identity on truth. Maybe you realized you've been shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that don't appreciate you. Maybe you've been giving too much in relationships that don't return effort. Maybe you've been downplaying your voice, your dreams, or your purpose. God uses lonely seasons to remind you of who you really are. Someone with purpose. Someone with value. Someone with strength. Someone with potential. This Christmas might have felt like an identity crisis, but spiritually, it was an identity awakening. When God rebuilds you, He removes false labels, old insecurities, and limitations other people placed on you. This sign means you're stepping into a version of yourself that is more confident, more self-aware, and more aligned with your calling. If you felt seen today, subscribe, because this channel was made for souls like yours. Sign 8. God is creating space for new relationships. If you felt lonely this Christmas, it doesn't mean God wants you alone forever. Sometimes He allows a season of emptiness to prepare you for a season of connection. Before God sends new people, He often clears the old ones, people who drain you, distract you, or delay your growth. You may have felt the emotional space around you expanding. You may have sensed that your future connections will look different, more meaningful, more intentional, more aligned. This loneliness was preparation. God is creating room for relationships that uplift your spirit, not relationships that exhaust it. You will attract people who match your heart, people who share your values, people who bring peace, not drama, people who understand your growth. This sign means new friendships, new connections, and possibly even new love are closer than you think. Sign 9. God is calling you closer to Him. Finally, the deepest reason you may have felt lonely this Christmas is this: God is calling you closer. When human presence is low, divine presence becomes louder. Loneliness creates spiritual hunger. It pushes you toward prayer, reflection, and internal honesty. It opens the door for God to draw near in ways you normally overlook. If you felt moments where you quietly said, "God, I need you." If you found yourself thinking deeply about life, purpose, or faith, if you felt a pull towards spiritual growth, that was God. Not absence, not emptiness, not abandonment. He was reaching for you. He was inviting you to rebuild your connection with Him. He was whispering that He is still with you even when people aren't. This sign means the loneliness wasn't a breakdown, it was a breakthrough. You're being repositioned into a deeper, stronger, more personal relationship with God. If this Christmas felt lonely, heavy, or emotionally confusing, it doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're transitioning. Every uncomfortable season comes before a meaningful one. Everything God allows serves a purpose. You were separated so you could grow. You were quiet so you could heal. You were lonely so you could see clearly. You were emptied so you could be filled with something better. This season did not break you, it shaped you. And next year will not look like this year. You are walking into clarity, healing, new relationships, new opportunities, and a stronger identity. Don't judge your life by one lonely holiday. God is still writing. And this chapter is just the preparation for everything you prayed for. If you felt loneliness this Christmas, it was not the end. It was the beginning of your transformation.